Hello everyone, hope you're all well. Welcome back to my channel. I know I've been missing for a while. Went back to Australia to go and see family again and had a wonderful time. So with no further ado, I'm in the middle of this portrait. You all know how to start a portrait. You've got a lot of basic tutorials of mine to go through to be able to get to this point. This particular portrait is from a movie. I forget what the actress's name is, my apologies. But anyway, I have started this, and this entire up to now has been done with a 2H. I love Staedtler pencils because they really do give you a good base for any drawing that you are doing, and you're able to build up fabulous layers as you go along and use the rest of their range, 4B, 6B, 8B, 2B, they're stunning. But what I want to show you is, I have this side by side, and if I look at my proportions, my mouth is in line, my chin is in line, my nose is in line, but I've made her nose longer than what it actually is by half an eyeball length. So that's what's out, is this area here. And sometimes it's good to have the photograph next to what you are drawing so that you can actually have a look at what you have and haven't done. If I look at this eye, I have taken it too far up, and it should really be slightly more closed at the top here, which is not a train smash to be able to change. That means that then the top lid, the crease will change as well, so we'll just change that, and immediately you can see that the eye changes to represent more or less what hers looks like. If I look here, there's almost like a corner, and this is all about observation that I've clearly missed, and I haven't drawn in a while. In fact, I haven't drawn since the last tutorial that I loaded onto YouTube, and this is all done freehand. So I was quite surprised that I was still able to do this and get as far as I have got because I really am very rusty, and if you don't practice, as I've always said, you do lose it, and you do, or more or less, need to start again. So I was quite happy and quite surprised at the result from this. Just to finish the observation, the hairline is slightly out as well, but I'm not too worried about that. It should come down. It should really come down to here. I'll just put that in. This is more of a worry than what this is. This is easy to fix. This is not, because literally I would have to erase this, the mouth part, or the eyes, pull the whole thing up or pull the thing down, which I'm not prepared to do at this stage. I like her mouth. It may not be exactly the right angle. I may not have got that true to the angle that her mouth is at. But overall, there's a very good likeness, which is what we're going for. And I'm happy. I'm really happy. I'm going to be using a 4B just to add in more shadow, because obviously that is what makes it pop and brings it completely and utterly to life. I have a mono zero eraser by Tombow. These are magnificent. As you know, I use these all the time. You can see it's got blue on it because I've just discovered blue lead and have used it for that. So I'm going to put my 2H on this side. I have this Faber-Castell. This is an eraser, a pencil eraser. Everybody raves about them. I'm still trying to get used to it. So I shall be trying this. I find this quite abrasive. Can you hear it? I'm not sure that I like that. A bit worried about what it will do to the paper, but nonetheless, people do rave about it. And then I have my blending stick that I absolutely love. So that's basically what you need. You don't even really need that. And of course, you need your kneaded eraser, which is very important and is fabulous to have in your kit. I mean, these are really worth every penny and more. They're gold. So with no further ado, let's get into it. The first thing I want to do is I just want to get a bit of dark into the side here of her face, because that will immediately bring her forward which is what I want. When I say forward, I mean forward to the viewer's eye. And it's all about what you want the viewer to see. And this is not really that, you know, there's no, how can I say, very, very freehand. So don't worry about what you're laying down, because we can always clean up the edges along the face, the edge of the face. So don't worry about how you're laying it down or what it looks like, because we will clean it up. And I like my portraits to almost come out of nothing. I don't generally finish every single detail because I like the viewer to have to guess, and in fact they don't even need to guess because the brain fills in whatever I haven't, which is great. It automatically does it, so it's not going to have any negative effect on what you do here at all. So I'm just going to do that for the moment. Remember that graphite does really blend out a lot more than what you put down. I'm just going a little bit darker along the edge of her face here because it's what I want. Her hair is extremely dark over here, so I'm just going to put that in. And I might just lay down a very, very light bit of graphite at the top there just to blend it out. Okay, so that actually comes down into here. There we go. Right, so immediately you can see that it pulls her face towards the viewer. Let's just blend it out gently. As you know, round and round, good little circles will do it. I'm just making sure that you blend that into the paper. So basically what we're doing now, when you apply it to the paper with the pencil, obviously it's sitting on top of the paper, and now what we are doing is we're basically blending it into the tooth of the paper. And as I said, you can see how much, with the blending, how much the charcoal, good grief, listen to me, how much the graphite moves out of the area that you've actually laid it down on. Blending gives you a whole new look to anything that you decide to draw. It's just beautiful. And I'm such a big fan of graphite. It's so forgiving and really can achieve the most wonderful effects and 3D drawings with it. So there you can see near her hair, I've blended that out very, very lightly. I'm not blending her hair because that's what I want to remain darker, because that is very dark on the actual photograph. And there I've just blended that out, and you can do more. I've done a small amount around her face. It's entirely up to you as the artist as to what you want to achieve. It's a very, very personal thing. And I'm going to go in around her face a little bit darker, because obviously blending it out does lighten what you have laid down. So if I go in and just darken it ever so slightly, I don't want to lose that dark hair, so I'm clearing and steering away from that area, but I do just want to get a little bit more around here. And this you don't have to blend out. I love the texture of this on top of the blended out graphite that we laid down previously, but I am going to blend it out because, as I say, I don't want it to interfere with her hair, this area here. I want that hair to have that texture, and I want this area to be quite smooth. So it's very, 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 very good to have different textures on your drawing. It does bring it to life, and it definitely makes it look more professional, I feel. So now I'm just carving out what I see I've moved into her face here. So I'm just taking that out with my kneaded eraser. Gently, gently does it. And that's more or less what I see. May not be perfect, but I think it's pretty good. I do want to get more of an angle here, and I've picked up the wrong pencil. I love this angle. So I'm going to get that darker there. So if you darken certain areas of your drawing, it pulls the eye towards that without the viewer realizing it. And it just makes, I feel, a more interesting drawing. Right, so I've laid that down. I may lay down a bit more, but for the moment I'm happy with that. I'm going to go into her hair here, and I'm just going to give an indication of what her hair is like. So the hair is not that important for me. It may be to you, and that's what I'm saying, that as an artist you will decide what it is that is important and what isn't important to you. And I just want to do this. Excuse me. I'm not really going to do much more. I want to get a bit more here on the ear, a bit more shadow, and I want to get this, the darkness of her hair that frames her face. I do want to get that in, so I am, and I'm just going to indicate that. I'm just going to do that. I'm going to leave the rest of it. I like that that disappears into nothing, and I am quite happy that obviously that might change as I go around putting in shadow where I feel it needs it. It might change, because as with graphite, it's all about adding and removing. So soften this out so it's not so, doesn't draw the eye to it immediately, because I want the face to be the focus of the actual drawing here. I don't want the hair to be it. Take that out. So it just gives the impression to the viewer that obviously there is a lot more hair than what I have drawn here, but doesn't take the eye away from the main feature, which is her face. The blending stump is the most incredible thing. So a lot of what I laid down here at first, before I went in with my 2H, was I used the leftover graphite that was sitting on my blending stump to go in and lay down bits and pieces. And you can see that it lays down a lot. I mean, I actually overdid that, but I just want to show you that your blending stump is really the most incredible thing, because you can lay down outlines of eyes and mouths, in fact the whole sort of portrait, and then go in afterwards with a darker pencil And doing that in the beginning just helps you get the proportions corrected before you actually lay down any proper sort of pencil lines and whatnot. I also use it for the shading, very, very light shading. You can, I don't know whether you can see this, I'm hoping that you can, but I'm just putting this down on her forehead because I don't want everything stark white, because when we start taking out the highlights, that's where you want the white to actually show. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that. Just want to have a look at this here, because that should be more pronounced. She's got a definite, beautiful profile. Just going to do that and then leave it and see how I feel about it. It may make her look a bit wonky, but I don't think it does at the moment. And then I'm going to go into her mouth here. I'm just going to go into the lip line. Sometimes less is more. Sorry about the tractor outside. They are mowing the lawns today, so we never know what they're going to bring out next, so I do apologize for that. So all I'm doing here is I'm just laying down an idea. These are just shadows, and it's basically just to enhance what the viewer is seeing. And bring the actual portrait to life. So if I look at the photograph, what I'm looking at is I'm looking at this really dark tone. I can see her eyeball. Obviously the pupil is very, very dark. And I'll pull out the highlight after. Not sure that this eyeball is exactly round. I'm just going to bring that up at the bottom. Just going to put some in here. And the outline of the eyeball there as well. And then I want a bit of dark here just to make that eye pop. And I'm going to exaggerate that, and just on the inside of her tear duct. If I look here, this is very, very dark, so I'm probably going to do that. It's always dark on the top lid. It's always a shadow in the eyeball too, although she doesn't seem to have that. Might have been taken from a different angle. She's got a very, very pronounced vein in her eye over here, which is great. I love that. So you can see that I'm not going in underneath the eye, because we're going to carry the graphite over into that once we've blended it out with the blender. Right, let's see if we need to lay down any more. You can see I'm just taking it into the eyeball because there is a bit of shadow here, just around that edge. Goes out. And I will redefine that top crease, and we'll put in a bit of detail on the eyeball as well. Don't be frightened of taking your iris further out than what you've actually laid down, because as you can see, the iris is quite big and it does radiate down into the rest of the eyeball. Okay, this has gone a bit skew. That's fine. I'll neaten that up in a minute. Just want to take out that almost looks like I've got a corner in there. There we go. Right, now we can put in, let's use the 2H. Can put in these veins just to make it look a little bit more realistic. And I'm using the 2H because I don't want a huge definite line of graphite like you get with a 4B. Now what I'm doing is I'm filling in this area here, and there is a light reflection just underneath it. I'm going to take that all the way around. I might just pull that out with a Tombow in a minute because there's no line just there, but I just want to get this in just to make sure that we have that light. There we go, we've got that light reflection now. Okay, and there is a darkness up here in this corner, which is normal. You can see that there's a reflection of the eyelashes on her eyeball, which is fabulous. I love that. And we can put in this top crease, and I'm still using the 2H. The 2H is fantastic just for laying in that little bit of graphite, that suggestion. And here we can do these radiating lines that every eyeball has, just to make it look more realistic. And then we'll pull out the highlight in a minute. And you can see I'm just randomly putting in lines here, which one can always change. You can see that there's a big shadow over her eye on this side, so I'm just going to put that in. This again with a 2H. I'm not using the 4B here. I just want to get this line. It's purely, when I use a 2H, it's purely to make sure that I get a likeness and that it's in the right place, so that I can, because it's easier obviously to erase if I don't. And also, I just love how gentle it is, because you can leave it like this. You can actually leave the 2H, let it be gentle in areas that you'd like it to be gentle in, and because it actually adds nice sort of difference to what you're doing, and I quite like that on that side. Here you can see that the light is out, and do this first on the creases of your eye, because when you go in to put in the eyelashes, you don't want to be trying to take the crease out, or the light out of the crease, should I say, because it'll just make it so difficult. I'll get this out of here. Take that away. There we go. And then we have this whole, right round from here, this beautiful highlight on her bottom lid. Goes all the way into there. I'm going to soften this ever so slightly. There we go. Right, there we go. Let's put that shadow back in at the top. I'm just going to add a bit of shadow here because I do feel that it does need it. So we've got the eyebrow, got the lip. I want to go in here and just blend this out, just to make it look more natural. does that look like? I'm not all of that happy with this little dark area here. So when you're not happy with an area that you have blended, just use your kneaded eraser to lift some of it out, and then you can go back in again. There we go, that's better. So the top lip creates a shadow onto the bottom lip, and the top lip is always in shadow because it's looking down, really, for want of a better word, whereas the bottom lip is looking up. So anyway, I can think of explaining it. And hence you get that shadow on the bottom lip because of it. So here you can see I'm taking out some of the light, and it's the reflections, and I'm doing it in such a way because the lip does have these creases in it. And then again I'm using my 2H, and I'm just going to go back in and put in some of these creases just to make it look a little bit more realistic, and that it kind of complements the highlight. And this is my 2H again. I'm not using the 4B for this at all. And then I want to get this, there is a dark line here around the bottom, and I want to get that in because that really does define that lip. And again I'm using my 2H. I'm not going to my 4B, my darker pencil. That shadow is in there at the bottom. We need that in to give it volume. Yeah, I think I'm quite happy with that. Putting this in, I just want to see if it's worth it, if it adds or if it detracts to the rest of it, and I don't like it, so I'm going to take it out. And you will see that you will have a lighter sort of area there, which is quite nice, just to demarcate that parting. What we can do is, let's try this. Let's try putting in that little bit of white that we see. Okay, that's all right. It's not too much, and it's not interfering with the main focus, which is the face. I'm going to go in a little bit darker in this area here, because that is quite dark. And so obviously if we darken one area, we need to look at other areas and go in and darken those. So that will probably be an area that we'll have to go back into once we've finished here. I'll take it down into here, goes across, and it comes up here. That looks pretty good. So if we darken that, we need to darken under the eye, because if you look at that and you look at that and you compare these, this is definitely darker. So I'm just going to take some graphite from here and I'm going to move it down into here. And as I say, this is what graphite drawing is all about. It's a non-stop procedure of lifting and adding Here you can see that that goes into there, so I'm pulling that into there, and then I'm pulling it down onto her face, top of her cheekbone. I'm just going to add a little bit more here. As I said, whatever we add to one part of the portrait, we need to obviously make sure that the rest of it balances out. So this is just what I'm doing here. I like the shape of her nose, and I see that I need to just remove some graphite. Although no, that looks all right. So you can see that all I'm doing is I'm using the blending stump. And the blending stump really does help to add to a portrait. I've got that shape of her nose, but it's a bit out the top here. So let me just take that out, just to change that. And then I want to add a bit more graphite in this area. And then to get back to this side, I want to add some here. Bring it right down. Okay, so now I need to take out, there's a tiny bit of white light here. Just need to take that out. There we go. Got that white light. That's not extremely white like everything else is. It's just slightly lighter, just a lighter tone. And then because we've done that, just want to take this into here a bit more. We now obviously need to darken this area. And just do it slowly. Just do it bit by bit, step by step. It doesn't matter if you are all over the place on your portrait. What does matter is that you manage to get a likeness of what you are drawing. That's all you want, just a likeness. Don't beat yourself up if you don't, because practice makes perfect, I'm afraid to say. It's just one of those things, we have to practice everything, no matter what it is. Okay. I love this line around here, so I just want to get that in a bit darker. There we go. Okay, I'm happy with that. I think it looks pretty good. Very, very basic portrait, but stunning to do. Just going to do that. Nope, I don't like that. I'll just get rid of it. Don't like that either. I think I'm just going to leave it to the one side, even though it is on both. And I'm going to darken this pupil. And again, I'm just doing it gently. This is the 4B again. Just doing it gently, because all that I want is that it pops. Let's go around and we can do a couple of radiating bits from it, and then we take out some light on the bottom of it, and we do the same thing here. So we take out this light and we can just do some radiating light around it. And 4B, just darken the pupil. There we go. Just going to blend it. So this might seem counteractive, but it really does give it more depth. Okay, there we go. All I do at the end is I just go in and just pick out certain points that I just want to emphasize. So the tear duct is something that if you emphasize it, it does pull the eye out, but you need to be careful because like I've gone in there a bit too dark. It just makes it look more realistic. Just certain areas on the eyeball. And the tear duct is a really important part of getting that eyeball to pop. Going around the top of the eye again because I really do want the eyes to be the focal point. And you will see as you do this, you will see that the drawing really does start to pop. So it's really important that you do these things on your portrait. That is, of course, if it is your style. If it isn't your style, you leave it where you want it. There's no right or wrong. This is my style that I'm showing you, and this is how I like to draw. Hope you can see what I'm doing. So now I think I've got my pencil in the way of the camera. There we go. So the eyelash. Right, now we are going to, I just want to see this here, needs a little bit more emphasis along here, and the pencil is not sharp enough. So I'm not sure I quite like that. But now we're going to just put in a couple of eyelashes, and let's do that with a 2H. Just so that we get a sort of a 3D effect with the eyelashes. I far prefer this sort of lightness of eyelashes than full-on black. So her eyelashes are actually very light. Whoops, I've gone into that area there, so I must just remove that. And remember, eyelashes are very random, so they go all over the place. And then we are going to put in reflections of the eyelashes, because that definitely makes it a bit more realistic. On this side we're going to have to use the 4B and just gently do it, because we don't want it to look like a train smash. And we're going to put in a couple of 4B as well. Whoops. Right, so I might have just ruined it. What not to do. So let me just lighten that. And I have to say that after my long absence from graphite drawing, I'm amazed that I'm actually drawing what I'm drawing. Also put in a few what I call Tombow eyelashes. Those are those that reflect, just to bring the eye to life. If you don't like them, you can just blend them back in again. Right, so there we go. I do hope that you have enjoyed this. Very basic, but it's a start. And as I say, the likeness is what you want. And I think that this is what I've achieved here. I hope you do too. And keep drawing, because it's the most wonderful thing to do. Thank you, everybody, and I shall see you next week.